What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today's July 25th of 2019. Well, folks, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and in today's video, we've got a variety of different topics to discuss for the update. Starting off, I'm going to be taking a look at the continued shift in Bitcoin dominance, where altcoins have been gaining ground, and I believe will continue to gain ground over the next few weeks. And speaking of altcoins, I recently put up my top 10 coins video for 2020, so if you guys haven't checked that out, you should definitely go see it. It's my second most recent video on the channel, and put a lot of time into it. It's a lengthy video, but people seem to have really liked it so far, so it's good to hear. And outside of that as well, in this video we're going to be diving into some interesting data points to keep in mind going into the later part of 2019 and 2020 in relation to Bitcoin, altcoins, and also some skepticism on the crypto market, which I will easily dispel. So we've got lots to discuss. Last thing though, guys, is that I want to start off the video by showing you guys a really interesting promotional video for a new upcoming conference called the Delta Summit. Now, I attended the previous conference back in 2018. It was one of my favorite conferences, not only because it's one of the largest conferences in the crypto space on an annual basis, but along with that, it's got a lot of interesting individuals attending, and it's based in the new blockchain island of Malta. It's a beautiful area. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to go ahead, play the video, and if you're interested, I've got an interview with Abdullah Kaplan later on in the video, who's heading up the conference, and there's also a discount code down below to tickets if you guys would like to attend. So I'm just going to play it. It's a really cool promo video. Let's go ahead and watch it real quick.
Imagine if your future self reached out to you to tell you where the rapid advancements in technology have led us. Imagine if you heard your own voice informing you about what is to come. Did we achieve utopia and make the world a better and happier place? Or did greed and careless ambition drive us to advance blindly, bringing about our own destruction?
We are here to make it happen.
Pioneering the world's first DLT regulations.
And I believe it's one of the most reasonable you will find in this world, on this planet.
We're really building a base layer for other companies to use. You know, it's not a D-app, or it's not an application that would necessarily have to find millions of users, right?
So blockchain is very useful. It's technology of the future, no doubt.
So welcome home, welcome to Malta, welcome to the blockchain island.
I was there. I'll be there.
Well, anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I gotta say, for a conference, it was probably like the best promotional video I've ever seen. Got me really anticipated for it. So it's coming up in October. I would love to see you guys there if you can make it. I know Malta is maybe a distance for some of you, but for those of you in Europe, I know there's you know, EasyJet, there's Ryanair. You can make it over. You can make it over. Come see me. No, just kidding. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and take a look over the market here. Crypto markets are pretty overwhelmingly positive right now, with very few players in the red. At the moment, we've actually seen a lot of success in some of the coins that we talked about yesterday. For example, just to kind of go through and talk a little bit about them. And again, I recommend you guys watch the video if you haven't, because I always like for people to have a fundamental understanding as to why I'm bullish on something. But we've seen, for example, players like Ravencoin, Steem as well, which we talked about doing quite well. The few other ones as well, like Dash. And then, I mean, it's a broader market as well, to be fair. It's just up, and Litecoin's another one we're looking at. But down here as well, we've got Chainlink and then Basic Attention Token, which are two of my really kind of big heavy hitters. They're number one and number two in that case that I'm really keeping an eye on. But it's good to see that the broader market right now is doing really good in the crypto space. So you take a look here in the sense of overall market cap. It still looks like we're still currently in correction territory, and I have to say, as much as if I were to look at this market cap chart, it would look like we might, seeing as we're setting higher lows here, that we might start picking up to the upside. I don't think we're going to see Bitcoin carry through just yet. I think we're still going through a correction period. Nothing severe. I think we've gone through most of it, but I think we need to set a final low in this correction for Bitcoin. And that even with that, we still might push sideways for some time. It seems like a lot of the gains and the higher lows are coming in for other coins here. And that's why, for example, we've seen about a 2% depletion in market dominance. So I've got it here on the chart. As we talked back a few days ago, there's really three signs that I talked about that made me feel we could get an altcoin cycle, or at least we're getting close to it in this case. But the fact of the matter is no matter if it's an altcoin cycle or not, I think we're going to get some ground here, some ground dominance for altcoins, because we broke through the very kind of exponential line here for Bitcoin. Now, the reason why this is important is that when you're going on uptrends, there's a problem with it going up exponentially, is that usually people rely on support lines, they rely on parabolas in this case, basically a curved line in this case that's setting up higher lows faster and faster. And the fact of the matter is that we broke this, and when you break these, it's usually a sign that the rally is close to being over. In this case, it might come back up, retest the highs again, but it's likely that you're not going to set new highs and that the trend is over in this case for the short term. So this can mean that we could have, a good 3 or 4% go over to other coins in this case during this market correction. So altcoins might serve as a hedge as Bitcoins continue to go down, and it also might yield some returns in this case. As we've seen, as Bitcoin's been kind of lopsided at the moment, we're actually seeing some altcoins pick up quite well as we took a look at the overall market. So again, this is something to look for. The Bitcoin comparative charts on a lot of altcoins that I'm watching, that I mentioned in my top 10 video, are looking pretty good. Some of them are a little more in the rough, around the down 90 to 95% range. But again, I'm looking for more kind of players that have kept up with Bitcoin throughout this bear market, that haven't lost 90% as they've gone through the bear market. They've actually held quite well. And again, over the next few days, I think we could see some gains here. The one thing that I'm looking at right here is this is like a broad kind of indicator that I use. It's really not so much an indicator; it's a collection of price action, which is the Ethereum, XRP, and Litecoin price comparative to Bitcoin. So we're measuring in satoshis, and we can see here that over the last few days between Litecoin, XRP, and Ethereum, we've either got a base going on here or actually a little bit of a bump up here. So it's kind of nice to see. I think we're just getting in a range where the risk to reward profile is looking really favorable for some of these coins. But again, I'm not so much just bullish on these players. I'm just using them as a weighted kind of index in this case. I've really got to get used to TradingView. I would love to build my own custom indicators. I know that I think it's Pine or whatever it is that you use for it, but it's really cool. There's a lot of awesome tools they provide you to really make your own custom indicators on TradingView. But again, I was going to study, data science, but crypto inevitably stole the show for me. So I never learned Python or R or any of the machine learning languages. So, and I'm just not really good with coding. I've tried JavaScript, a lot of others. If you guys feel the pain, give me a like, make me feel okay, because I can't program. Anyways, so I want to talk about something that I have mentioned in the past, but I don't think I've really kind of pushed the scale up before. And this is one of, again, the growing macro factors that come into play with Bitcoin here. We always talk about Bitcoin with its finite supply at 21 million coins. And that alone is pretty shocking. We've used the analogy that if every millionaire in the world wanted to own a Bitcoin as a hedge against global currencies, global debts, equities, asset markets, properties, whatever it may be, the fact of the matter is that not every one of them could own a Bitcoin. So when we take it in the measurement of Bitcoin, sure, you can have fractions of a Bitcoin, you can have mini Bitcoins or Satoshis. The fact of the matter is if you want to own one whole Bitcoin, you cannot, if every millionaire wouldn't be able to. So taking that into account is one thing, but there's something that is generally known as the untouched supply, or basically the amount of Bitcoin that haven't been touched for over 5 years. Now, this is a conjunction of a lot of things. It's people who are true hodlers, who just will not let go of their Bitcoin, who are using it as a store of value or believe in, the potential of the network long term. But along with that, it's people who have lost Bitcoin. Bitcoin that have been lost due to mismanagement of private keys or failing hardware where the private keys were stored and someone didn't write their backup recovery seed in this case. So you have almost 4 million Bitcoin. And I would assume that in the next year or so, we're going to probably get up to this number of 4 million, as Chainalysis has kind of hinted towards. That over 21% of the circulating supply, this almost near 4 million Bitcoin, will not be liquid on the market for a very long time. As I said, most of it's probably lost. And this means that the supply of Bitcoin inherently, except for those who may be hodling it, is absolutely lower than it already is. It's more limited than we previously assumed. So we can see here actually through the data, some people are like, how can we trust that these Bitcoin really might be lost? Well, again, there's no way to really determine it. There's no label on the Bitcoin that says, oh, it's lost, but we do have timestamps. And we can see here that there's using basically the actual blockchain data, we can see when an unspent transaction output was created in this case in order to be used and spent. And that gives us timeframes on when those Bitcoin were last used. So we can see here there's been a large growing amount here of Bitcoin that haven't been used in a certain time range. The one that's reached about 5% is at, 5 years is over 21%. We've talked about this as we've taken a look at the Bitcoin data, the HODL waves, as they're commonly referred to as we take a look at the unspent transactions. And this is just continuing to grow, guys. Yeah, there's a really good chart. Again, if you look up Bitcoin data science HODL waves, you'll be able to find the chart that I was referring to. But again, this is Matt Odell, who's basically been taking a look at this, and it's showing that people are using Bitcoin as a store of value right now. The most important use case for it is not so much peer-to-peer transactions. I'd say in some economies it is, but for right now, many people are just simply, especially in economies who really need Bitcoin, they're just trying to find a way to hedge against their unstable currencies, corrupt governments that seize their wealth, things of that sort. Having something that's outside of the traditional system is very important. That doesn't have a direct ID attached to it. So I think that that's the very important aspect of Bitcoin. But we'll have to see if it continues to expand. If we start to see some of this Bitcoin move, that'll give us a really big kind of difference, I think, in opinion, if that starts to change. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the skeptics of Bitcoin. There's a person from Edward Jones, which is a very large retirement investment company, who basically came out and stated that why the Bitcoin 300% rally is not to be trusted and that they're skeptical of Bitcoin. So again, the headline kind of gets a very bold perspective of who this person is. They say it's like, oh, it's a get out quick, a strategist at a $1 trillion fund from Edward Jones is explaining. So she doesn't manage $1 trillion in funds. Edward Jones does as a company. So she's one strategist out of thousands probably at the company. Anyways, Kate Warren, if I'm pronouncing her name right, is an investment strategist at Edward Jones, which oversees more than $1 trillion, said to never be a long-term investor in cryptocurrencies. She also criticized the fervent speculation and excitement behind the asset class, attributing price movements to irrational investor behavior. Sometimes investing can feel like gambling. All right, so she goes through this article, and I want you guys to look through it for yourself. Sadly, you have to get past the paywall because Business Insider doesn't allow you to do it. So if you go to Outline, if you look up this article, you can type it into the link into Outline, and it'll bring this up for you. That's how I'm able to get this article. So generally what she talks about is, yet again, what I've heard many times, that Bitcoin is not only in a bubble, that it is solely based off of the greater fool theory. And, we'll talk about how in other markets, for example, whereas this is simply gambling, that you should be, if you're really investing, you're investing in stocks, you're investing in properties, you're investing in gold and silver, things like more traditional financial assets. I'll see if I can get the quote here. This is, I think, the quote that I found earlier. We don't like the specifics of Bitcoin, and we really think the price is moving around on speculation rather than something else, she told Business Insider in a recent interview. When you think about Bitcoin, you're looking to buy something that you hope to sell for more to somebody else who's more excited than you are. That's the essence of speculation. You know what? Yeah, guys, 100% agree with this. It's absolute speculation. In fact, when I went down the road the other day and I was thinking about, one day I want to have a family, I want to have, my home of my own. I was looking at a home and I'm like, God, that house could really be worth something. And I can maybe even sell it to someone later down the road for a higher price who might appreciate it more than I do, maybe in a time when housing prices are up further. But you know what? I didn't do it because it's speculation. And there's also this really great company I found that just went public on the stock market, and it's producing a product that everyone's using and is actually, unlike other startups, producing profit. And it's really great. And I was thinking, like, maybe if I buy the stock and then at a later date, like 5 years down the line, I don't know, as the product keeps growing, I sell it for higher, I could maybe like buy now and make money. But I thought, you know what? That's speculation. I don't want to do that. And maybe gold and silver have been doing really good, right? Maybe if I continue to, if I get it now and I continue to ride the trend that it's been going on, maybe it keeps on going for another year or two as the global economy gets into shambles, I might make some money. No, can't do that. That would be speculation. You see where I'm going with this, guys? Like, I think from the second you read this quote, probably felt like, you just probably felt dumbfounded in this case. The whole idea that people say that Bitcoin is the greater fool theory because it doesn't produce an interest rate, because it's a new financial asset, that no one controls it, and that it's not a stock, commodity, or treasury, because of those viewpoints, I think is one of the most arrogant ways to view Bitcoin. And it shows it's just traditional, it's the logic of the traditional financial sector. What isn't comfortable, what isn't usual, and something that's new. And the thing is, they'll always attest Bitcoin to being a grateful theory, and that this is like, you know, Beanie Babies 2.0. Beanie Babies 2.0 didn't exist for 10 years. And I'm sorry, Beanie Babies didn't exist for 10 years. They, just like the tulip bubble, went up and went down and never came back. They were fads. They were, you know, short-term trends. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has historically, with every single cycle, set higher lows and higher highs. So what does this tell us? It tells us that, well, Bitcoin has the properties to be used as a store of value, right? And we've seen that. You know, again, I don't mean to, you know, ramble on here, but whenever you hear someone say the greater fool theory, you know, that's such a scapegoat to actually being able to criticize the flaws of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has plenty of flaws. You should hit it for the fact that it only processes about 3 to 4 transactions per second. That's not a global payment network. That's not a global store of value. 7 billion people can't use that. Sorry. You know, you need things like Lightning Network, and, you know, we're working towards it, I guess. But, you know, is that going to be enough to really supply this technology to 7 billion people across the world? I don't know. I'm not 100% confident in that. There's a lot of things, not to mention the consumption of energy that Bitcoin uses, right, for proof of work. Even if some of it is renewable, that's renewable energy that could be used elsewhere. There's arguments that you can make against Bitcoin. Not the greater fool theory. Everything is the greater fool theory. I hope to buy stock tomorrow that could go up to the moon and I could sell it for double or triple the price. Stocks aren't based on fundamentals. Gold and silver aren't always based on fundamentals. Gold and silver for the last few years have been down in the water, even though the absolute fundamentals of the underlying economy have sucked. So the thing is here, now if you want to say Bitcoin's a bubble, I'll put this in summary. Yeah, Bitcoin's probably a little bit of a bubble. There's a lot of speculation going on. But you know what? Assets across the world are in a bubble. Everything's in a bubble. If you don't have your money in an asset, you're losing. If you got it in currency, if you got it in a savings account, you're losing out. And that's why Bitcoin is very attractive, because there's too much inflation in the world. There's too much depreciation of currency. There's too much credit injection into the economy. So anyways, one thing I wanted to talk about here is, as I mentioned in my altcoin video, and I really built on, and that I will continue to build on throughout 2019 and 2020, is that most altcoins are not going to ever come back to their all-time highs, guys. If you bought back in December of 2017, you need to really reassess your portfolio and look at what you got, because there's a really good piece here. Another, again, a really interesting data piece that came out that said, if, for example, the altcoins right now were to hold their Bitcoin comparative, if they were to hold against Bitcoin right now, and Bitcoin went to 100K, 79% of altcoins would still not reach their all-time highs from the previous cycle. And this is the chart right here. This shows basically if holding their, you know, alt to BTC ratio at a flat 100K valuation, this is still the percent they would be down from their all-time highs. So I'm not saying these projects are bad. What I'm saying is that we need to find players that have outpaced Bitcoin, that have been killing it in this bear market. I think you're going to have much better odds with that. And if we take a look back at the previous cycle, during like 2016, 2017, who were the players that inevitably came out on top at the end of the cycle? Ethereum, XRP, the ones that were new, exciting, and were outpacing Bitcoin already in the early portions as we were starting to exit out of the accumulation phase. So that's the very important thing to take into mind, guys. You want winners. That is what we're looking for here. Also, I got to say, the new Twitter layout is a little disorienting. Is anyone else desktop user like myself? This is definitely a little bit new. I'm open to change, but boy, this is throwing me off a little bit. Anyways, just thought I'd share this. Last but not least, I found this interesting piece, and I want to do some research into it, but I just wanted to share it with you guys. There's this project called Epic Cash, and as you all know, I'm a big fan of Mimblewimble, but it's basically taking the technology from Mimblewimble that exists for private transactions, and it's also merging it with the monetary policy of Bitcoin. Now, this has been my biggest criticism of Grin, is that it's hyperinflationary in this case. Well, not hyperinflationary, sorry, that's a really rude term, but it's a very inflation-based currency, and it aims to be like most traditional currencies at 2% inflation across the world. And I personally don't like that. I think the inflation model, not to mention in the early days, is way too high. So because of that, I'm really interested. I want to look more into this, but if you guys know anything about Epic Cash, let me know. But anyways, last thing to talk about, guys, before we dive into the really interesting interview. NASDAQ has broken all-time highs here as we take a look here on the daily. Now, we're down a little bit here today, as the market just opened, but we have set new highs on the NASDAQ, again on our way to NASDAQ 10,000 as the Fed has continued to inject not only lower interest rates throughout the economy, or through the Fed funds rate, but along with that, eventually we'll talk about quantitative easing. Yet again, I have no doubt about it, to keep propping up stock values. We're all becoming Japan eventually. That's the whole key here, guys. But anyways, that's it for the video. We've got the Fed meeting coming up here in the next few days, guys. We will be likely doing a live stream for that. I'll see how I'm doing in the sense my schedule might be busy writing the newsletter around that time. But anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Let's go ahead and dive into the interview with Abdullah Kaplan. Alrighty, everyone. So today we are very fortunate to be sitting down with Dr. Abdullah Kaplan. And we're going to be talking about the upcoming conference, the Delta Summit that's being hosted in Malta. Now, I went to the conference last year, which was honestly one of the top 10 conferences I've been to in the crypto space. I did a lot of traveling in 2018, but I think it's a combination of what you guys have at the conference that just makes it so special, but also the broader environment of Malta, which has become the blockchain island. So, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time and want to learn a little bit more about you. So if you could tell people a little bit about what you're all about, definitely take it away.
Oh, thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be, talking to you here today, and nice to see you again. I haven't seen you since last October when you were at Delta Summit in Malta. But basically, yeah, I'm a tech entrepreneur based in Malta. Throughout my career, I found a number of companies that focused mainly, but not exclusively, in AI, machine learning, and their application in fintech. I'm a data scientist also by background, have a passion for academia, which is why I still lecture and research topics ranging from deep learning to algo trading to principles of blockchain technology. And there were a number of hats. One of them is the founder and the chairman of Delta Summit, which is Malta's official digital innovation event.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's been a year since the last conference, last time since I've been in Malta personally. And I'm real curious, as we step into this next conference, and, I know you have your focus in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I mean, not just in the blockchain space, but what has changed in Malta in the sense of the tech field right now over the last year since we last met? I think, there's just probably been a world of change since I last made it out there.
Sure. I mean, it's very interesting what's been happening. Let's start with this. I'm not an events guy, so I had no plans to be in the event business. It was not on my to-do list. But as a technologist that was actually involved in advising the government in Malta here in setting up the regulatory framework for technology arrangements and services, which culminated into one of the first laws in the world to enact a regulator for digital innovation here in Malta. Last year was a year where we actually had a vision to create a regulatory framework that will allow the creative process to prosper, that does not stifle the innovation, but at the same time protect the consumers and the customers in a pretty much unregulated space, which was the blockchain space. Through that process, there was all the hype, as you may recall, in 2008, about the whole blockchain and crypto thing. But we wanted to get things done properly and done right. And we believe that was a tech-driven process. So a process where the technologists need to take lead, need to explain to the lawmakers what this technology is all about in order for them to create the laws around it. And for that reason, Malta came into prominence globally as one of the first countries in the world to take such step. And because of that, a lot of very talented people, investors, companies, projects started looking at Malta as a place where they would want to come and base their projects. And that was the first seeds, let's say, to create this ecosystem, which we're now seeing that it is starting to prosper and thrive beyond blockchain. Because from day one, even the regulator that we created was not the Malta Blockchain Authority, it was the Malta Digital Innovation Authority. Because from day one, we knew that when we say technology arrangements and services, we're going to start from DLT, decentralized ledger technology, out of which blockchain is an architecture, but with a vision from day one to move into AI, IoT eventually, which is something I'm quite passionate about personally. When we've done that, we knew that, okay, last year was, by all means, blockchain year. But since then, the government has set up a task force to draft a national strategy on artificial intelligence, which will be actually rolled out at Delta Summit this year. It's one of the many announcements that are lined up at Delta Summit. And coming back to, as I said, the fact that I'm not an events guy, but when we were in that situation last year that we were the first country to do what we're doing, the idea came, why don't we have an event that celebrates the fact that we're truly the first, at doing what we're doing. And, someone during that meeting say, hey, since you're the poster boy of blockchain and tech in Malta, why don't you run this event? Me being me, I usually say yes, and then try to figure out how I do it. But having spoken and keynoted and participated at various conferences for the past 8-9 years of my life, I've always had a vision of how an event should be structured in a way that combines intellectual stimulation with economic stimulation, because I believe that they're both equally important. The first one on the intellectual front, by bringing some of the world's top leaders, innovators, pioneers, visionaries, people that have some insight and strategic foresight about the industries in question. And on the economic side, by bringing some of the world's biggest companies. In our case, last year, were either companies that have decided to move to Malta because of the regulatory certainty, or companies that were thinking about moving to Malta, or companies that just wanted a nice event where they can showcase and launch a specific product. And we managed to bridge the gap between both the intellectual side and the economic side, and to create an event which is probably the only event in the world where also the national government regulators are exhibiting alongside the companies. So last year we had our financial services regulator, the communications regulator, the gaming regulator, the information technology agency, all exhibiting next to all these companies. And we had the launch of the MDIA, or the Malta Digital Innovation Authority, at that event. And for that reason, there was a lot of very positive, like you were there, media coverage about the event. The quality of the event was quite high, to the extent that, we're voted and nominated as one of the highest quality blockchain events of 2018. In all honesty, we were never after the numbers. We were never seeking making an event where thousands of people come. We just wanted a very, very high quality event. But through the targeted approach that we had, even in terms of our marketing, we managed to attract more than 4,500 people who were of very high quality. Companies at Delta signed some very big deals. Massive contracts were signed at the event, mainly because of the matchmaking process that we've created, between the companies themselves and between delegates and these companies. And it worked out really well. So I think the best way to describe what we've done is that we created a concert for intellectuals, where intellectuals from all over the world come and they get wowed by the production. We tried to merge, showbiz into tech biz. The stage that we built last year was the biggest stage ever assembled in Malta for a tech event. That was, done on purpose, just to make sure that, from the moment you walk in the event, you're wowed. And then obviously the very high quality content kicks in, the very high quality exhibition, makes a good impression. Funny thing we've done, like last year, even at our exhibition, we said more no's than yeses to companies that wanted to exhibit, because since we had the responsibility of being Malta's official digital innovation event, we could not afford to have projects that would end out being, projects that, would fail, or, there's an element of scam to them. So we've created our own due diligence process to accept the exhibitors, which at the time was very controversial. People were like, hey, we're offering you money to exhibit, where you take it? Now everyone realizes that it's like, okay, you need to work hard to be able to exhibit at this event. But once you exhibit there, obviously you're exhibiting next to some of the biggest companies in the world. So yeah, it worked out really well.
Well, I'd say, Abdullah, that's good because I know a lot of conferences who don't kind of draw their line in the sand and saying like, hey, this is, what we accept and what we don't. And sometimes they just chase money in that case because it is a business in that case. Conferences can make a lot of money. But in the case of what you guys are doing, I think it speaks to something much more amazing. I mean, you talked about a lot of different things, but to summarize on all, it seems like there's this intrinsic desire from both the private sector, but also in the public sector through the Maltese government to truly be a forefront island for technology. And I think this makes sense. For example, Malta is an island nation. In this case, it has to innovate. It has to find ways to attract people to the country and also, focus on building new industries. And I think between not just blockchain, but like you mentioned, AI and machine learning and all kinds of different fields, Malta can be this gigantic, not only blockchain hub, but tech hub that's really going to keep it ahead of the competition. So I'm really excited about that. And I think that you guys are kind of, not to mention as well, you have Joseph Muscat and stuff, who's, I think, the Prime Minister of Malta and stuff, who gave the speech at the UN, attending the event. I remember I actually walked past him just like casually when I was going through the conference, and he had his bodyguards around and stuff, which was really cool. But I think it's cool. It's cool to have that kind of leadership. And I understand Malta's maybe a smaller nation, but to have that kind of leadership interested in this technology and participating and learning about it, the importance of regulators knowing about the technology is the first key step in getting anything practical done.
Yeah, completely agree. And we're quite lucky because, like you rightly pointed out, we're in a situation where, our own Prime Minister went on record as early as, January 2017, saying we want to be the trailblazers in this industry, in this new sector. And we have very limited resources, but in the digital space, you're not anymore confined by your physical limitations. We wanted to capitalize on that, and having a leadership that pushes you forward to achieve that is a blessing, mainly because us as technologists, we feel trusted in this process. We feel that we're being, not only respected, but we're listened to. So when we give advice, it's usually taken in consideration. Obviously, the lawyers are always needed because they're the ones that are going to write the laws. Yeah. but the technologists are the ones who are going to, sit behind their laptops coding. So it's
everyone fits into their role eventually and gets stuff done. That's the important part of it. And I'm excited to meet some of those people. I know at the conference there's going to be a lot more people than there were even in 2018. So the market's heating up again. Malta has continued to grow in the past year, as you mentioned. It's grown like wildfire. So I'm curious, in this case, Abdullah, like, what are some of the links and resources people can go to start kind of learning about this, to maybe book tickets or look at some of the speakers?
Sure. I mean, mainly our website, www.delta-summit.com. Our Twitter is at Delta-Summit, and our Facebook page. If you look up Delta Summit, you'll get to the Facebook page. That's where a lot of our content is going out. We're creating a very interesting marketing campaign, which is the hashtag I'll Be There campaign. We've just debuted our promo last week, which is a very twist on time travel and coming back from the future to speak to us today. But I ask you to maybe share the link with your audience.
Absolutely.
And they will share it with the hashtag I'll Be There. So hashtag Delta Summit, hashtag I'll Be There, because I genuinely hope to see you all there. And everyone that's listening to us today, I would genuinely love to welcome them personally to Malta.
Well, I appreciate it so much. And to build on what you said, for those who are just, whether you're just focused in blockchain, if you're a viewer of my channel and stuff, guys, or you're really into just overall emerging tech, this is going to be one of the largest cryptocurrency conferences of the year. If it goes anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 participants, which is kind of the range you guys are hoping for, I think this is going to blow a lot of things out of the water. There's very few conferences that see that kind of people. And not to mention, I think Malta is the perfect environment for it. So, Dr. Kaplan, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. And again, we will leave the links down below in the description, guys. I appreciate it. And until we see each other at the conference, I'm excited to see you, Abdullah.
Thank you so much for this. And one last thing, just for your listeners and subscribers, we're going to give a promo code for 50% off all our delegate tickets. So we'll just send you the code over. You can share it with your community. and your guests are our guests. So please make sure that you come with data dash basically.
Yeah, I loved meeting some of my fans from the channel there. It's funny. It's amazing. Like out of all places in the world, there's people in Malta who watch the channel and stuff. So I felt very humbled by that. But yeah, there will be the code. I'll leave that down in the description and stuff for you guys to get the early bird tickets. But yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I'll see you guys there. And Dr. Abdullah, I will see you at the conference. It'll be fun.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.